We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Ring the notification bell. Share the video if you want to support this college football's rebel outpost with a donation to help us keep the lights on and grow the channel. Just hit that $ where you make a comment and I'll get you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. This is a national college football YouTube channel. I hope to keep it that way. I hope to keep it a national college football YouTube channel. DEFCON 2, the Southeastern Conference has officially, here at PATC, has moved to DEFCON 2, which I think technically means they're about 12 hours, 10 hours, 8 hours, 6 hours away from reacting to some possible nuclear threat, whatever. The Big Ten is at DEFCON 1. I've been saying that for a couple of months. And I got dragged over the coals by some nitwits on X and my message boards. But look, there are consequences. There are consequences. If we cannot govern, if we cannot have a 70 team, 68, 69, if we can't govern it, then people are going to go on their own. People are absolutely going to go on their own. The Southeastern Conference and the Big Ten already threatened a breakaway. And at that time, I said it ain't going to happen for 2025. But it could happen. It could happen in 3 years. It could happen in 2 years. It could happen in 4 years. Because what other choice? What other choice are they going to have? Look. I'm talking from the Southeastern Conference perspective here. All right? For those who have missed it, and we're going to go through the article from Ross Dellinger, and this is not going to be one of these 2-hour live shows because Wednesday evening I got to get on the road. But we're going to stay here as long as we possibly can. Ross Dellinger's just put out an article. The frustration is growing, and you know the frustration is bigger than what the article even illustrated. If you've been listening to this program, Georgia President Moorhead, if the CSC is not going to enforce this settlement, if the NCAA is not going to enforce tampering, if Congress is not going to pass the SCORE Act, then it leaves the SEC in a position that we have to go our own way to create rules. If there is not a solution in any of this, the Southeastern Conference is going to go its own way. And by the way, keep in mind, again, we're going to go through the article. Keep in mind the words that Moorhead is saying at the end. Then it leaves the SEC in a position that we have to go our own way to create rules. And if the president is saying this in public, they've had a lot of conversations in private. I mean, there are lots of reasons why I announced the Big Ten was at DEFCON 1 a while back. I mean, look at where we are. All these schools agreed. All these schools signed on the dotted line for the CSC, for the Deloitte Clearinghouse, for the rev share. They've all agreed to all this stuff. And if a player signed a rev share agreement, they're not supposed to be this tampering. And don't get it twisted. Nobody's saying that the SEC schools are playing by the rules. The problem is the SEC schools are breaking the rules. The Big Ten are breaking the rules. The Big 12 is breaking the rules. The ACC is breaking the rules because nobody believes that there's going to be any enforcement. Nobody believes that this national governance is going to actually work. Nobody truly believes that anybody's going to follow a CBA because you can easily go around a CBA like a lickety split. None of this. The only confidence that any of these schools have is if we have our own rules in our own conference where the presidents see each other, talk to each other constantly, where the athletic directors see each other and talk to each other constantly. We can govern our own. We can penalize our own. We can govern our own, but we don't trust the other conferences. Same thing within the Big Ten. Same thing within the Big 12. Same thing with the ACC. But if you have the Southeastern Conference breaking away, if you have the Southeastern Conference where they create a world in which they only play each other, which is talked about in this article from Ross Dellinger just a little bit ago, well, you know, I have been fighting against this for 4 bleeping years. The Army of 24, the 44426, but we're at the point, if we don't get a miracle shot here, if we don't get a miracle, now you might say let the SEC break away. You might say that, but if the SEC breaks away, the Big Ten goes its own way. And that is going to hurt Big 12 schools, obviously. So it's easy to say this. It's go ahead, go. You know, I have been against the breakaway. I've spent all my time being against the breakaway. But on the College Football Mafia show with Nathan and Moen and Wild Judah, I said, look, I don't blame the Big Ten for breaking away. We are in a world here. We are in the world in which the Big Ten, the SEC, and the ACC, and the Big 12, we gotta have this Notre Dame carve out, right? We still gotta mess with this carve out. They get a special carve out. We are in this world in which schools are still tampering with guys even after they sign a contract, even though all the schools agreed they would not do that. We are in a world in which people are just blowing by the caps now. The $20.5 million cap. Nobody trusts each other. Let's get to the article. Again, this just came out. Ross Dellinger, 1 hour ago. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I'm going to go through parts of it. Some of this is some of this is absolutely 100% serious. National Harbor, Maryland. As it turns out, the conference executives are talking with each other. As it turns out, thousands of convention goers are under a single roof. The Gaylord is quite literally a big tent, the term often used to describe the NCAA scope of member schools with drastically differing missions, standards, and financial prowess. Yet they're all governed under a single national association. Perhaps it's time for a change. Big problems are not solved in big rooms filled with people. That is a principle, Southeastern Conference Commissioner Greg Sankey said in a recent interview with Yahoo Sports. Well, you know what, Sankey? The issues were not solved in a small room of just Big Ten and SEC representatives in those advisory groups. Right, Sankey? Let's get real. You wanted that advisory group, and nothing got done in that advisory group. Nothing got done in that advisory group between the Big Ten and the SEC. In the midst of the association's annual gathering, leaders from the NCAA's, the football subdivision, I'm going to skip all that, yada, yada, yada. Perhaps something even more serious is a brewing. A frustration from those in many power leagues at the lack of enforcement from the NCAA and the College Sports Commission over allegations of tampering college athletes, eligibility rulings, and the circumvention of the industry's new roster spending cap. For some, PATC money shot number one. A solution is emerging. Each conference should govern itself. enforce its own rules, and perhaps even compete solely with its own members. The Southeastern Conference is at DEFCON 2. Nothing is getting done. Nothing is getting done. Nobody, again, I keep saying, follow the damn rules, but people don't want to follow the rules. So here we are. We can't govern a 70-team. We can't govern. There's no ability to govern any of this. If the CSC, PATC money shot number 2 of the article, if the CSC is not going to enforce the House settlement, if the NCAA is not going to enforce tampering rules, and if Congress is not going to pass the SCORE Act, then it leaves the SEC in a position that we have to go our own way to create some rules and a level of responsibility. That's the Georgia's president. We'd be able to make a much stronger argument that we are not in violation of antitrust rules because we don't have market power. They would have more protection against violation of antitrust. In fact, the Supreme Court basically said that during the Alston hearings. They said the conferences, they have legitimacy, they have space, but the NCAA does not. That's what Moorhead is referring to. While the SEC isn't alone in its dismay over the national enforcement, league officials are publicly expressing their feelings while they privately take preliminary steps to contemplate a new model. We're not done with the article. We're not even close to being done with the article. But look, the league officials are publicly expressing their feelings, and privately they're taking preliminary steps to contemplate, to outline a new model, a conference-owned model, the Southeastern Conference. A Southeastern Conference that is looking to expand its footprint. Sankey cautions any suggestion of a long-discussed breakaway by the SEC and other power leagues. Nobody wants to rush there. And the SEC remains committed to a national organization, he says. However, there are limits to that, Sankey said. The frustration level is a building. I anticipate there's a lot of people that are saying this might not work for us, brother. So he's not cautioning people that, boy, the breakaway is a long shot. He's not even saying that. He's saying we don't want to rush there. Ladies and gentlemen, they've had so many discussions about this. They've had so many discussions about this. Those people exist well beyond the Southeastern Conference footprint, even if they remain in the background. There is support among other membership for a similar model. One Big Ten athletic director told Yahoo Sports, each league govern itself and plays only games within the league. PATC money shot number 3 of the article. There is growing support in the Big Ten. I mean, look, guys. The Big Ten, we've had them at DEFCON 1 for like 2 or 3 months, maybe 3 months. You can't get the SCORE Act passed. No schools want to have their student athletes become employees. Nobody truly believes in a CBA because they truly don't believe it will hold. Nobody truly believes, if you have a bargaining agreement between labor and leadership, that the money is still not going to circumvent the cap. There's not going to be broken rules. The CBA basically does nothing when it comes to enforcement, other than maybe contracts become binding. Nobody believes that these schools can trust each other enough for a 70 school, 72 school, 80 school, 136 school. Nobody believes that we can govern. Nobody believes that the trust can be there, that it can hold, and that people are going to follow the damn rules, no matter how you write it up. Unless you are part of one conference, which they believe there is some protection on those accusing of antitrust violations. So it's not just the Southeastern Conference, right? There's support among other memberships for a similar model. Each league governed itself and plays only games within the league. Now, so we've got Brett Yormark, right? We've got Brett Yormark running around right now. He's trying to hold it together. He's trying to get everybody to sign the participant agreement, which, by the way, the SEC schools have signed. All the SEC schools have signed. So if you want to call them the boogeyman, they're trying. But there are schools in the Big 12, there are schools in the ACC that won't sign it. And that is pissing off the Southeastern Conference. The pursuit of athletes at other schools is a common occurrence, described by Mississippi State President Mark Keenum as a widespread tampering. Coaches and staff members are encouraging athletes from other schools to enter the portal, despite many of them being under the sign of the revenue share agreements with their current programs, which violates everything that everybody agreed upon. Roster budgets are booming well beyond the $20.5 million cap. Most big brand football rosters are exceeding $25 million. Using third-party marketing and endorsement deals exempt from the cap. And then it gives a bunch of examples. What are we doing? The situation has left the industry exasperated and broken, with many wondering aloud the four simple words, what are we doing? We are money laundering, said one high-level Big Ten school administrator. We are doing right now is moving money around. 3 power conference athletic directors, all of them outside the Southeastern Conference, as it turns out, told Yahoo Sports within the last week that they believe there should be no cap, as the enforcement of it is far too difficult. All right, now we got no cap. All right, maybe that's how it should be. Maybe that's how it's going to play out. Right? College football players making way more money than NFL players, because the NFL, the franchises, all agreed that NIL would be true NIL and not an inducement, not an end around CBA. College football, NIL is not NIL. It's all inducement payment, and nobody trusts that the CBA will work because you've got boosters who are not franchise owners who've got nothing to lose. They're always going to bring the bag of cash to the student athletes. Ohio State Athletic Director Bork says should we just have an open market? I'm mystified why there is a lack of clarity over the responsibility of tampering. Sankey said that is the responsibility for the NCAA to oversee. However, and then it goes through a bunch of information here and how tampering is not easily prosecuted. So these schools, they know that. So they're just going to go ahead and break the rules. By the way, they would do the same thing in the CBA world. Gun-shy CSC. College Sports Commission is only in its infancy. But its CEO, Brian Seeley, has, by all accounts, worked diligently with the conference and member schools to assure an earnest operation of the system. However, in a situation striped with college sports, the participation agreement has twice failed to gain consensus among the 68 schools. The SEC, the original version, signed by the SEC, but only binding if all the Power League schools sign, prohibits universities from taking legal action against the CSC. Only the Southeastern Conference signed that document. So why would the Southeastern Conference have trust with anybody? You guys know I'm not a Southeastern Conference homer, but I'm giving you their perspective. Look, guys and gals, why should the Southeastern Conference trust anybody? And why would they trust the schools within their conference? But basically, they believe they can govern their own. They can crack down on their own. But they don't trust that the Big Ten's going to crack down on their own. The Big 12's going to crack down on their own. The breakaway threat is real, and it's been percolating for months, and we've been giving you that peek around the corner here. I don't know what else to say. And here is the PATC money shot number 4 of the article. And I wish everybody would read this 10 times. Everyone wants to blame the NCAA. The NCAA is us. Texas Athletic Director Chris Del Conte said, "We made the rules as a governing body, and yet members broke the rules and lawyered up to sue over the rules they created." It's absolutely 100% pathetic. Oh, it's not done by CBA. Everybody got together and made the rules. And now people are breaking them left and right. And you're going to blame the Southeastern Conference for breaking away? You're going to blame the Big Ten for breaking away? In a presentation from the NCAA convention on Wednesday, Seeley delivered an impassioned 10-minute plea to schools urging them to sign the participation agreement. If there is a time to stick out your neck, it's now, Seeley told the room of conference and schools officials. Because if we cannot get it together, if we cannot have guardrails, if we cannot govern this 68 school, then there's going to be a breakaway. Moorhead and 3 other Power Conference University presidents penned a letter earlier this week encouraging schools to sign the CSC agreement so true enforcement can begin. The situation with the CSC agreement is the perfect example of why we can't fix our problems. Outgoing athletic director of Oklahoma. It's going to take a couple of years to normalize what's happened in the front loading, said Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark, who says he's aggressively working toward having the participation agreement signed soon. You're not going to get it, Yormark. You're not going to get it. CSC is prepared to enforce settlement rules and is making real progress. Brett Yormark is doing all that he can to keep this 68 school association together among the Power Four conferences. He's doing all that he can, but he can't get the Big 12 schools on board. Cody Campbell with his yeah, I don't even have to go down that road tonight, do I? Brett Yormark is scrambling. Phillips is scrambling. Last summer, ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips says a school may need to be punished to fully realize the effectiveness of the new enforcement arm. That needs to happen, Phillips says. And if it happens in our league, I won't feel any differently about it because this is about us trying to settle down the whole enterprise. Phillips and Yormark need this to work. They need this to work. It's going to hurt the institutions of those two conferences more than the Big Ten and the SEC if the SEC breaks away. If we don't get federal legislation and schools don't legitimately agree to this settlement, and they haven't, and do everything we can to follow the spirit of the law, if you don't get to that place, we're going to have to look at other alternatives that allow us to have guardrails. Baylor President Linda Livingston. The ones you hear the most are about some kind of bargaining model, she continued. We don't want an employment model, but everybody recognizes bargaining is something we need to be considering. Well, no duh. But again, that doesn't help. That doesn't cure the disease of schools not following the rules. What is old again is new again. What is old is new again. Former SEC commissioner, Big Ten commissioner, their enforcement and investigations originated from their conference office. Many administrators believe such conference-only governance provides a way to create rules and enforce those rules, such as tampering, eligibility, roster cap, without as much legal scrutiny as the NCAA endorses. But for many, that could also mean something else. Conference-only competition. Guys, they've been talking about this. They've been they're all reading from the same songbook. They're all prepared to talk about this. PATC money shot number 6 of the article. Federal law prevents us from settling unilaterally national standards, said Florida Athletic Director Scott Strickland. It seems like the only chance you have at setting a standard is a smaller subset of schools. We want to make this a national sport, but according to federal law, it's a regional sport that happens to have national appeal. Breakaway, breakaway, breakaway. 4 years, conferences operated within silos, governing only themselves, investigating, enforcing themselves, and playing mostly themselves until the postseason, when bowl games tethered to specific leagues arranged the end of the year matchups. But such a model doesn't solve all the problems, Sankey acknowledges. though it is helpful to have a more consistent environment and more commonality among decision makers to make decisions for the group. Again, Sankey likes smaller groups. Sankey loves this idea, guys. Greg Sankey wants this breakaway to happen. The only reason it hasn't happened yet, because of all the legalities of the House settlement, because of the the SCORE Act, and because of the contract, playoff contract, and political ramifications. Political ramifications. And we're going to get to that in a second. The big question mark on some of this is, can you create a national championship if you don't have some framework on how people are engaged? Great question. Great question. What if the other leagues don't adopt similar rules and enforce them? One SEC athletic director says it's plausible to have an SEC only independent enforcement arm, but that could cause problems with national competition. If the Big Ten does something different, it doesn't work, the official said. Our coaches would be up our asses. That's why some within the SEC believes that conference-only competition is necessary. If other conference does not adopt and enforce similar policies. DEFCON 2, the Southeastern Conference. I think we want to play with schools following the rules, said Moorhead, Georgia president. I think this plan would work because college football fans are focused on the SEC. Look at the TV ratings this past season. Our fans want to see rule structure. You've got Georgia's president, you've got Sankey, you've got Gainesville, Florida athletic director. They're all throwing bombs. And then the article talks about how the SEC has dominated college football. A lot of people in this league, the Southeastern Conference, are saying, what is plan B? Texas A&M Athletic Director Trev Alberts says, I'd put a really small group together, including current coaches, put everything on the table. You're basically saying, if we're going to start over, what would it look like? The longer we wait, the deeper the hole gets. Ricky Tungates, thank you so much for the gift and membership. I do very much appreciate it. I do not know who received it. Whoever received it, please say thank you to Ricky Tungate, Mr. Hoosier. Ricky Tungate, whoever got it, you are officially knighted. Cloak and Dagger, Cloak and Dagger. Thank you so very much. So here we are. And this is what we have at Peek Around the Corner. I've been talking about for months. If a lot of people are rooting for nobody to follow the rules, here we are. There are going to be consequences to this. I said on my account right after this article was published. I said the consequences of distrust among conferences amid constant rule breaking among many schools is getting closer at hand. The consequences. SEC schools only playing SEC schools is one option in SEC, which most likely will gain more traction as time goes on. It's real. The Big Ten being at DEFCON 1 is real. This whole thing, this whole argument that these four power conferences have this governance plan, Greg. They have this governance plan. it's 65%, blah, 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 blah. Everything is just fine, Greg. Everything is kumbaya, Greg. This is the reason why I've been pushing the 4-4-4-4-2-6 to bind this together, to actually give more value and credibility to the Big 12 and the ACC without handcuffing the Big 10 and the SEC. But you know what? It ain't going to happen. Because Brett Yormark and Phillips, the SEC ain't going to allow it to happen. But Brett Yormark and... So here we are. I'm looking at the comments section. Silly Moorhead. Miami would have beaten all the SEC teams. That's not really what this is about. I don't think people are going to, I don't think, Taytown Hot, Greg, if this doesn't get signed, then the settlement falls apart and they could owe $20 billion in damages. Yes, who can afford that? The SEC, the Big Ten will have to pay no matter if they break off or not. It isn't, the settlement is done. Now we got to follow the rules. If we don't follow the rules, then the House lawyers along with the judge can rip up the agreement and the back pay goes up. The settlement, the participation agreement document, all that is about schools agreeing that they're not going to participate in their state in suing, or some other third party, in suing the rest of the schools for the creation of the CSC, the enforcement, the Deloitte Clearinghouse, and all, and the rev share, and all of that. That's what the participation agreement. But everybody signed on to this. And I've been warning everybody. If people don't follow the rules, this ain't going to be good. But even right now, people don't care. Son of Sarek, let them break away. It's like, do you really think if the Southeastern Conference breaks away and only plays against each other in the regular season, do you think that harms or hurts your school if your school is not in the Southeastern Conference? Woo! Did Sankey condemn Kiffin? He should have. If LSU actually tampered, which I don't know if they did. There was no investigation as far as I know. Right? Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't know. It hurts every Big 12 school. It would hurt every ACC school. It would hurt the Big 10. And if the Big 10 only played against each other, it would hurt the Big 12. It would hurt the ACC. And it would even hurt the SEC a little bit. Not playing in those big This is, of course, breakaway is bad for college football. Of course. But the Southeastern Conference is at DEFCON 2. And I've tried to explain why they are. A lot of anti-SEC, a lot of anti-Big Ten comments, which is fine. I understand it. I agree. I mean, you know, it is what it is. But you really want the SEC to break away? Do you really want that to happen? People are saying that the Southeastern Conference would not be able to enforce their own rules within their own conference. Well, you know what? There's a lot of rules in these conferences, right? If you look at the handbook, the Big 12, the ACC, the SEC, and the Big 10, everyone is following these rules to be a part of the association. and maybe they can govern themselves. I don't know. We might be finding out here in the next couple of years. But if they feel that they have a better chance of governing themselves, well, then they're going to do it. Because they can't control anybody else. The Big Ten cannot control anybody else outside the Big Ten. You know that whole Michigan thing, right? College Stallions and all that? Tony Petitti acted as quick as he possibly could. They gave Michigan a penalty. Michigan thought it was horrible. And the rest of the country thought it wasn't enough. But Petitti handed it down as quickly as possible. Michigan had an appeal process. They did not appeal. They eventually just took their punishment. The NCAA, it took them forever, right, to investigate, to put out a ruling. That is a great example of why this is too big to govern. Too big to govern when you do not have franchise owners, right? It's too big to govern. Especially with all this money now. The breakaway has become more possible than ever. And I've been warning everybody for 3 months at least. Brad Darden, definitely don't want a breakaway, but definitely don't want billionaires writing checks when most schools can't. I mean, well, that's the thing, right? Like Cody Campbell, for example. He wants everybody to do this like TV agreement, a media agreement together, right? He wants a government agency to be able to have a power over conference realignment and scheduling and everything. He's dropped that because, of course, the Big Ten and the SEC said, what the hell are you talking about? But Cody Campbell's not going to give up any advantages that he gives to Texas Tech. Of course not. But yet he wants, I mean, it's like Cody Campbell's looking out for Texas Tech. And I've never ripped on him for that. But, you know, you've got to come up to the reality that he's looking out for Texas. He ain't looking to save college football. The SEC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, the ACC, eventually every decision they make is about the institutions in their conference. They're looking out for the institutions in their conference. And they really only trust themselves, if that. Absolutely. Of course they are. Jan Hoke. Look, if the SEC is thinking about this, I believe the Big Ten as well. And it said this in this article. I got a little bit of time to open up the phone lines here. 763-260-1333. If you want to comment, read off. It's got to be in super chat form. I'm looking for phone calls, any phone calls. 763-260-1333. I got about 9 minutes left on this live show. We got about 213 people in here. This is serious. We've been giving you guys the peek. Constant peek around the corner on this. The Southeastern Conference, they're not playing. They've been talking, they're looking at it. They're privately working on it. They've already threatened this before. If they have to produce just an SEC champion, they'll go ahead and do that. They're going to play each other more. They're going to make more money.
Call from
Christopher Hooter.
Christopher Hooter, the floor is yours.
Oh, it's a twofer. It's a twofer.
Yes, it is. It needed to be done. I had to get the cheeseburger overdone earlier today, but this is a very serious topic. Go ahead, Mr. Hooter.
Okay, so all right, I have a question about, so how big can the group of teams be and have antitrust issues.
Oh,
So,
I have no
so
idea. I don't know. I forget the Supreme Court Supreme Court judge's name. I think it was
Kavanaugh. Is the
Kavanaugh.
Power Four? If the Power Four huddled, is that too big? Is that an antitrust
that's
thing?
what. So Judge Kavanaugh, the NCAA is the Power Four. The NCAA is the schools, and Kavanaugh told them in the Austin case that they don't have legitimacy, but he did say a conference does have legitimacy. He said that out in the open, and people picked up on that. So it was Judge Kavanaugh. Go ahead and Google it. And look, if it's a conference, if schools are freely in that association, if the conference is directly giving money to the student athletes with the rev share, which the Big Ten is doing, by the way, supposedly they might have some protection on the antitrust violations. But you know what? We're not going to know. But again, governance. Right now, it's totally impossible, and the people in the Southeastern Conference and the Big Ten are getting fed up. Go ahead, sir.
Well, it could be a nightmare, right? Because you don't know how each in their, like you said, their own silo. You don't know how they're each governing themselves, right? And maybe one's a little more loosey goosey than the other. Well, then we're never going to play the other guy, not even in a bowl game.
We might not. Or maybe the Big Ten and the SEC come together and make their own rules together. But then again, they couldn't even get in that advisory group. They couldn't even agree on anything. So I don't know. That might not work either.
Well, that's still 34 teams. I mean, is that? I mean, at what point?
It's 34 teams, but it's going to get bigger. Go ahead.
Okay, well, say it goes to 48, whatever. I mean, at what point is it so many teams that it's antitrust? I guess that's kind of what
I don't know.
Right, I'm wrapping my head around.
I don't have the answer.
Which your buddy at Texas Tech, Cody, what's his name?
Campbell.
Right. Yeah. So he wanted this Super League with 70-something teams. That's got to be touching that antitrust number, whatever that is.
Well, yeah, but they would get protection. That's what Cody Campbell was telling Trump in his ear. Give us antitrust exemptions, Super League. That was private equity money coming in. That was billions of dollars of private equity money. Somehow that private equity money was great. But if one conference does it, it's evil, which is, a contradiction. But go ahead, sir.
Well, no, this is fascinating. So I didn't really know all this. Okay, so as long as each conference or maybe a couple kind of get together and stay in their own silo, they can kind of do what they want to do.
They believe they would have, because they've been doing it for decades. And in the Austin case, the judges basically gave the conference the legitimacy of more power. After that Austin case, you saw where conferences were getting more power and the NCAA was getting less. That was by design to protect them from these antitrust violations. And that's what's been going on for a couple of years.
And then that's going to kill college football. I mean, at the SEC and the Big Ten, even if they're in their own silo, well, that's the end. That's where all the money is.
As a football fan, I would absolutely hate it. Hate it. Now, is it going to kill the SEC? Of course it's not.
No.
The Southeastern Conference, they're going to increase their membership. They're going to play each other all the time. They're going to get it's not going to hurt the SEC. It's going to hurt.
Or the Big Ten.
Yep. It might a little bit, but it ain't, it ain't going to be but it's going to hurt college football as an entire, it's going to hurt college football. And as a fan who watches I watch everything. It would be terrible if we don't. It would be a breakaway would be terrible, but it's becoming more realistic every single week and month that we can't put up any guardrails And it's not just that. It's my chat room is filled with it. Message boards are filled with it. Every YouTube channel is filled. People are so happy that their school is not following the rules. So here we are. Here we are.
Well, it would be the end of the G5.
Yeah, they would be. They would be diminished greatly. Yes, absolutely. The MAC conference would be in such trouble without the Big Ten schools playing. It would be terrible. Terrible for student athletes.
Ugh. Well, hopefully this is just, again, muscle. Sankey is just muscling Congress to get off their bosoms and give him something, right? I gather they think an executive order won't work, and it won't work, not long term anyway.
No, it won't work.
So you're right. Maybe this is just leverage for Congress.
Maybe maybe it's another threat. Maybe it's leverage. But on the other hand, the Southeastern Conference isn't just sitting around and not developing. As it said in the article, they've been meeting privately. They all know the lingo, right? They've all had all these discussions. You've got Scott Strickland, you've got President Moorhead, you got them all. They've been talking about this. If we can't get it together, our 68 schools, if we can't get it together, then we're just gonna go off on our own. And Notre Dame, hello, Notre Dame, hello. The walls keep closing in on you. You're this agent out there. It's just ridiculous. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, no, at that point, Notre Dame's got to, they got to join a conference, Big Ten or whatever. Yep.
All righty, sir.
Well, I tell you, Greg, I appreciate that. I didn't know a lot of that, but thanks for
you got it.
Thanks for keeping your ear to the railroad track there. All right, buddy. Appreciate it. Talk to you. Yeah, bye.
So here we are. Again, it's DEFCON 2. It's not DEFCON 1. Although I got the Big Ten at DEFCON 1 because B. Tim and associate. People are just like, forget, we can't, there is no solution to any of these problems. And we might have to just govern our own. We might have to go and create our own universe. And the Big Ten is big enough to do it. And they're going to get a little bigger. And the SEC is going to get bigger, so they might as well do it. That's where we're at, guys. And when I saw this Ross Dellinger article, when I saw the title of it, when I saw what Moorhead said, it only took me like 10 seconds, and I said, my God, nobody thinks this is real, like this is a real threat, but it is. It absolutely is. The SEC is mulling a new governance model. They're working on it. They're thinking about it. A new governance model, an SEC governance model to govern their own, to play against each other more than ever, and they're gonna make the conference bigger eventually, and it's gonna hurt. The Big Ten would do the same, and it's really gonna hurt the ACC and Big 12 schools. So again, I say, if you're rooting for this, I don't know, man. I'm not sure what your... Anyways, I do appreciate you all coming on in here. This was an emergency live show, second live show of the day on a Wednesday, the day that I don't have much time to do anything. But we had to do I had to eat the cheeseburger earlier today. If you missed it, go ahead and watch that live show. That wasn't a very long live show either. This one, we're going to have to wrap it up. But you better believe we're going to be talking about this tomorrow. There's going to be more reporting on this tomorrow. More reporting on this tomorrow. This is a real threat. A real threat. Do you want the SEC to break away, to create their own world, governance and everything else, their own schedule? They only play each other, and maybe their own champion, national champion in college football. Let me know. Do you really want them to leave? Let me know, because man, the ramifications on that are endless. So we're going to be talking about this tomorrow and everything else in college football from all of us at PATC. To all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. And as always, God, Maria, Golden Gophers.